All right. Hey guys, happy to be here.
Hello. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so
Yeah,
much for the invitation. I'm very happy to give a talk.
I'm s- I'm super excited, man. Yeah, let's do this. I've been going through your work, following your works, and you've been doing amazing thing. The last time I was busy with your TEDx presentation.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
that was
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, that was a
so
cool experience. Giving a TED Talk is unlike anything else. There's like super a lot of preparation and stuff.
yeah. So do you have slides that you're going to share?
Yeah, yeah, I have. I can share them right now.
Yeah, you are now a co-host, so you can share. A quick one before we start.
Yeah, please. All right. Can you see the slides?
Yes,
Wonderful.
yes,
All right.
yeah, made sense. So we're going to start right away. So, guys, welcome again for today's Afro longevity educational program. And with us here is Linus Peterson. Linus is one of the great um, longevists from across the world. He's doing amazing stuff. We've been friends on Twitter, LinkedIn, and all that. But he on longevity, I got to know him through Aubrey de Grey and one of the longevity events organized by Aubrey de Grey. And we've been trying to connect and look at how we're going to collaborate in um, bridging the longevity divide and bringing the dividends of longevity across the world, especially in Africa. And he's doing a whole lot. And Peterson is a co-founder of Swedish Longevity Cluster. He's passionate about solving aging, life science engineer by training,
But
and
I was selected. Like the guy put them open. You go send a message.
so kindly mute yourself if you join. Let me mute everyone and uh, so so yeah, minute 20 minute okay, so okay, mute record. Okay, yes, thank you. Can you hear me now? Okay,
Yes, we
yes.
can. Please go ahead.
Okay, so please let's respect decorum here. Once you join, mute yourself. You don't have conversation in the background. We are trying to do something very meaningful for ourselves and the society at large. So Peterson here is doing a whole lot, as said, and he's here to share with us his knowledge and blueprints that we can use as Africans in when it comes to longevity advocates. Everyone here is a longevity leader. We are going to make sure that we take the message of longevity to all the corners of Africa. Make sure that we have the footprint of the longevity message across the continent. So he has been doing this and he got a blueprint and that he is going to share with us, which we're going to use. Stay tuned. After the presentation, you ask a question. Yeah, Linus, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Again, super happy to be here. On a practical matter, like how long do you want me to speak and how long do you want to have for questions?
Okay, just you can speak to because this is a very important aspect of our program, the advocacy approach, because there are a lot of obstacles there. And so I would want you to speak like 40 to 50 minutes.
Oh,
So
that's
we
a
now
lot.
have
Awesome.
yeah, so that we have conversations. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Sure, sure. All right, cool. Yeah. All right. If anyone has a question, please just break in and ask it during the talk. I think it flows kind of well with the talk, basically. All right. So what I want to do, I want to tell you a bit about myself, so you know, like who I am, where I'm coming from, and what credentials I have. And then gonna speak about the science of aging and why I believe that it's possible to actually do something about aging. And then the sort of why of this. Why are we interested in doing something about aging? What reasons do we have to maybe stop aging? And then finally, to talk about the longevity industry and the companies that are actually working on this today. And then finally, on the advocacy part, like how does the advocacy for longevity fit in this whole ecosystem, and why is it important? All right, let's do it. Let's see if I can jump ahead here. So, like, first of all, like, who am I? By training, I am a scientist. I'm a civil engineer in technical biology. I am an author, and I've been working on aging for like, geez, 25 years now. So this all began for me with an existential crisis where I started to ask myself, like, why are we here? And like, what's the meaning of life? What's the sort of purpose of the universe? And to get answers, I started reading. And I began reading like philosophy books, but eventually I found science, the natural sciences like physics, chemistry, and biology. And I thought this was just wonderful. And I don't know how many books I have on this, a lot. And as a teenager, I was super fascinated by this, like what we humans have discovered for the past 250 years or so. We've been doing serious science. And then I sort of started asking myself, why do we get disease, and why do we have to age, and why do we have to die? Is it possible maybe to fix this, to do something about it? And when I began reading physics, I realized quite soon that yes, this is possible in a theoretical sense, that we don't know of any laws of physics or chemistry for that matter that makes it impossible to extend the human lifespan indefinitely. So I'm like, okay, that's awesome. So this really is possible. Okay, you check the first box, right? But then I continue to read, and I sort of really dig into biology, and I realized, and this was 20 years ago, so quite a long time ago in scientific, in this was long ago in this perspective. Uh, and back then, we didn't really have a good understanding of what aging was. We had all these sort of nice papers, but there was no coherent framework by which we could understand what aging was at the cellular and molecular level. So it was very hard, but I'm like, okay, this is bad news. We're probably not gonna solve aging in my lifetime. As a teenager, this was my conclusion. Like, we just don't know enough. I'm too early in the history of science to be able to benefit from this personally. And I'm like, oh, this totally sucks. Like myself and everyone I love, and like all of humanity will die. And not in a nice way, but we will get disease, we will age, we will get diseases, age-related diseases, suffer, and then die. So I was quite depressed actually, for some time there. But then I sort of like, no, I decided for myself, I'm gonna dedicate my life to solving aging. I mean, the odds are against me, I may not succeed, but this is what I'm gonna do. So said and done, I studied civil engineering, technical biology. I did some work on stem cells at Karolinska Institute, which is the university here in Stockholm that gives out the Nobel Prize. And then in 2013, we had this hallmark of aging paper, which is now very famous within the scientific community, that sort of described what aging was in a very, well, at least it was a framework. It's not perfect, but it's a framework that many people refer to. And I'm like, okay, now we sort of we know enough to start developing drugs. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to switch. I'm not going to do science anymore. I'm going to try to figure out how the pharmaceutical industry works so I can be part of creating these new medications and advanced therapies that will target aging. So said and done, I became a private consultant, and I have jumped around for the past like 8 years between different pharmaceutical companies or startup companies, I've been an advisor to many companies. So this is how I sort of make a living, basically. But in parallel to this sort of professional work, I have been doing public speaking. I have been writing a book, which we published about 18 months ago. I've created many organizations. The latest one is the Swedish Longevity Cluster, which I'll tell you more about in a second. So this is sort of my trajectory. And I've been going to lots and lots of scientific conferences. I've met basically most of the scientists that are working in this field. And I've read, I don't know how many papers on this. So I really try to approach the subject with scientific rigor. Like, we really need to be super serious about the science here. We cannot sort of do wishful thinking or pseudoscience or other stuff. No, we gotta be super serious. And solving aging is a very, very hard problem, and we are not close to doing it right now, sorry to say. But we do have a chance within our lifetime if we step up our efforts. So if you're gonna take like one thing with you from this talk, is that we can solve aging, but we are not currently on track of doing so. We need to increase the amount of funding and the amount of talent, smart people like scientists, entrepreneurs, investors working in this area. And if we do that, if we have a society-wide effort, sort of like a wartime effort, then we actually have a good chance of stopping aging within the lifetime of most people currently alive. Okay, so this is some background from me. All right. Oh yeah, a bit about the book. So this was supposed to take 6 months. It actually took 5 years to write. So my book is a popular science book about aging, right? So I try to give a very general description of the field of aging, and the target audience are politicians, decision makers, entrepreneurs, and investors within the sort of Nordic countries. It's written in my native language, Swedish, unfortunately. A lot of people have been telling me that I should translate this. I will, but it takes, I want to do it right. So eventually I will translate it and hit it on all social media. All right. So a bit about the Swedish Longevity Cluster, my organization. So our goal is to kickstart the longevity industry within the Nordic countries, right? So today, most of the entrepreneurs and the startups that are actually developing these medications are based in sort of Silicon Valley in the United States. There are a bunch in Switzerland, some in Singapore, England, Germany, and a few other places. But I don't think, given our sort of caliber in Sweden and in the Nordic countries, like we have world-leading academic institutions, I mean the Nobel Prize basically, a legacy pharmaceutical industry, and sort of a very large and thriving tech industry. Spotify was created by a Swede and are based here in Stockholm. We have Klarna, we have a large tech sector, right? So we have all the pieces here, but we don't really have what I would consider real longevity startups. So we want to change that. So I host pitch nights. I try to connect investors and entrepreneurs and get this going. And I also do longevity advocacy. So this is basically going around telling people, politicians, like ordinary, normal people, entrepreneurs, investors, like I try to focus. Although I do give talks to like the general public, I try to focus on people who actually have a capacity to affect change. So primarily politicians, entrepreneurs, investors, change makers, basically. And I try to tell them, like, guys, look, we can solve aging. Like, this is not science fiction anymore. And then I try to sort of lay out, like, yeah, we should probably do this, this, and this. I try to sort of give them policy recommendations. We should increase our basic allocation to science funding, basically. Do more aging research. It's not that hard, we should also sort of increase the amount of capital that startups have available to them, so we can have more startups that can develop these medications. And we need to get the legacy pharmaceutical companies, like the big ones, like Pfizer, Novartis, and so forth, interested in longevity. And this is actually happening. So I'm very pleased with that. All right. So what have we done in practice? So we launched in September in 2023. We do pitch nights. The Longevity Biotech Fellowship, LBF, has held a retreat here in Sweden. Super happy about that. We had like 60 people from like 20 different countries. We had professors, postdocs, lots of different people. And I've been doing a speaker series, and we were in a major newspaper. We're trying to do like, what can we do to get people to work on aging? And we try to do everything. We've held a series of conferences. So for example, the AI and Longevity Summit on October last year. And this was something quite special because we had a representative from the Nobel Committee of Chemistry that gives out the Nobel Prize, and representatives from NVIDIA, the largest country in the world that makes these chips, and some professors from Karolinska Institute. So very happy about that. And AI has this huge promise. So like those who work on the cutting edge of AI, we want to get them to be interested in aging and apply their resources and critical thinking to solve the problem of aging. So that's one thing we did. I try to visit Parliament. So this is the Swedish Parliament. And I met some politicians and spoke to them and said, yeah, guys, we have a lot of old people in this country. The economics will not work out in a few years' time. Like we will have like 3 working people for every 1 retired. And this economic equation will not work. And a solution to this problem is to sort of stop aging, to make people at least have the capacity to work longer. So I try to make this pitch to the politicians. I also try to give public talks. So I've been on TV in many different fora. I also have hosted, sort of like we're doing right now, like a speaker series 2 or 3 years ago. So if you're interested to watching any of these talks, we have de Grey or Matt Caberline and Nathan Chen and lots of other sort of prominent figures within the longevity space. So you can just search on YouTube if you want to watch any of these, the Swedish Longevity Cluster, and you'll find it. All right. Now, okay, so that's my organization, and that's what I've been doing. But I think like we should really start at the beginning. Like, let's ask a basic question. Why is aging bad? And I think we actually have a few reasons, some very compelling reasons. First of all, involuntary death. Okay, every day on our planet, 150,000 people die due to aging. Sorry, die at all. And 110 of them are due to aging. Now, this is just nuts, okay? If you ask objectively, like, what kills the most amount of people in the world? The answer is aging, by far. Aging kills more people than everything else combined, by far, okay? So 110,000 people per day due to aging and 40,000 everything else. So if you don't like death, which I very much do not, I think we underestimate how bad death itself is, then I think it just stands to reason not to sort of go after the thing that kills the most amount of people. But I've noticed that many people are sort of okay with death. I'm not, but say that maybe you are. Well, you may not be okay with disease. Now, aging is the root cause of basically all major non-infectious diseases, like cardiovascular disease, dementia, basically all forms of cancer. Now, all these age-related diseases would not happen at all if we had solved aging. Okay, so we get these diseases because we age, right? How many 10-year-olds get like a heart disease? It's like basically no one. I mean, it happens, but it's like super rare. And when we eventually solve aging, when we develop a host of therapies that target the molecular causes of aging and make ourselves like 20 years old, like biologically speaking, we will get these diseases at the same low rate as the current people today who are 20 years old, right? So we will not sort of make cancer go away completely, but cancer will be super, super rare. So target aging, prevent disease. And the final reason that I argue sort of is the reason we should think that aging is bad. Look, this is personal, and I think this is a valid reason to wanting to do something about aging. Look, you and everyone you love will age, get sick, suffer, and die due to aging. This is horrible. This is an unacceptable situation that we should do everything in our power to prevent and stop. And this is a very good reason to work on aging. Usually when I give talks to students or like, hey, everybody, I'm like, whatever you're doing, drop it right now. You should work on aging. This is the most important thing you could ever hope to work on. All right, so this is why I argue that we should do something about aging. All right, now, what should be the goal here? Within the longevity community, a popular word is sort of health span. Okay, and health span is defined as like the healthy part of life. And many people say that, yeah, we want to extend this part for as long as possible. And then if you're like 90 and play with your grandkids and you can run around outside and then you sort of die in your sleep and there's no pain. That's the goal. At least the sort of health span narrative argues that this is the goal. I disagree. I think we should be much more ambitious. We should say life is good, death is bad. There should be no limit to our lifespan. I know this is not a mainstream opinion, but I have yet to hear a good reason for accepting like any limit here. I think we should stand up proud as humans and say, no, like we will not accept this. We want to live good, happy lives indefinitely. Okay, given that this is our goal, how does the science look here? Well, I told you in the beginning that it's possible to stop aging, so it would be nice to have some facts and arguments to back the statement up. And I think we have compelling evidence here. First of all, as I mentioned, there are no laws of physics or chemistry that we need to break. Okay. So for example, if I were to tell you that, yeah, we want to build a spaceship that can travel faster than the speed of light. Now, that would be impossible. Okay. That would violate known laws of physics. So you should not trust me if I were to say that. However, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is it's possible to extend the healthy lifespan of a mammal indefinitely. Okay, it's a much, much lesser claim. And we know this is possible. Secondly, nature has already solved this problem. We have discovered dozens of different species that don't show any sign of aging. We have the Greenland shark, the naked mole rat. There are certain forms of lobsters. If you look to the plant kingdom, there are lots and lots of plants who live more than 1,000 years. So given that evolution has sort of, in a way, solved the problem of aging, this should give us hope that we can replicate this in mammals as well. It might be very hard, but look, it is possible. We have proof of concept in this sense. And finally, the third reason, the molecular biology of aging has been characterized, right? So we're not sort of walking around blind here and just have no clue. No, we have the hallmarks of aging. We have sort of a basic rudimentary understanding in place now. It's sort of analogous to 1953 when we discovered the DNA molecule, right? There's still like a lot of technical development that needs to be done before you can develop medications and make unhealthy people healthy again. But like you have a basic understanding and you have a framework to working. And this is now the case within the case for aging science. So this is great. All right. So these are the famous hallmarks of aging. This is a now super famous scientific review paper that was published first in 2013, which describes about a dozen or so molecular and cellular pathways and phenomena that are causing aging. Okay, and we have a few examples. We have dysfunctional mitochondria, we have genomic instability, telomere shortening, and so forth. And this Hallmarks of Aging paper was updated in 2013. So now there are like one or two more. But it's basically just a recategorization of the same knowledge. And this is very important because this gave scientists, entrepreneurs, and investors like a common framework to talk about aging. So this has a lot more importance than just being a scientific paper. It really turbocharged the whole industry. All right, and just to give you like one very short example. One of the hallmarks of aging are senescent cells. So what is a senescent cell? Well, it's the cellular state of an aged cell. It's a cell that has ceased to perform its original function, but it still lives on, like a zombie cell, basically. Where sometimes we call them zombie cells because it's a kind of funny analogy and people usually remember it. So these cells, they linger in the tissue and they affect the nearby cells to also become senescent. And this is why we call them zombie cells. Now, when we're young, these senescent cells, they exist in all parts of our body, like in the brain, in the skin, in the liver, in the muscles, everywhere, right? But they are in a low proportion. But as we age, the amount of senescent cells increase in our body. And the obvious way to solve this problem is just to remove the senescent cells. And this is being done right now. So there are several dozen companies developing pharmaceuticals that selectively target and kills senescent cells. And this works great in model organisms. For example, in mice, we've been able to extend the healthy lifespan of mice significantly using these kinds of drugs. And last time I've checked, there were 15 human studies in progress. So these types of medications are being tested in humans as we speak. Very important. All right, and this is just one example, senescent cells. There are like a dozen of these areas, and probably we need to fix all of them in order to completely solve aging. And thus, we will not have one magic pill that will solve aging. Aging is sort of like cancer. There are like many types of it. And probably we need to solve all of them in order to take a 90-year-old person and make them 20 years old biologically. So this is unfortunately a very hard problem. All right, let's talk about the longevity industry. That is the part of the pharmaceutical industry that are developing drugs targeting aging itself. So we have good news and bad news. Good news first, there has been an explosion of interest and funding in longevity biotech. From like 2013, we've seen this exponential increase, which is awesome. I never expected to see this within my lifetime, so I'm super happy that this is the case. However, and now the bad news, longevity biotech is still a tiny industry compared to what we would need to be like very certain that we will solve and stop aging within, say, 10 years or so. Therefore, we need massively more resources. We need more funding, we need more scientists, we need more entrepreneurs, more investors. We need a lot more resources, unfortunately. And this is sort of a timeline of longevity biotech. So like we had the first glimpses in the late 1980s and in the 1990s of a few companies that were started. These unfortunately all failed. We had the molecular biology characterized during that time period and the first wave of startups in the 2000s. And then we had this magical moment in 2013 where we had the Hallmarks of Aging paper, and we also had Calico, the California life science company, funded by Google with I think they had like $3 billion US, like billion with a B, so a lot of capital. And this gave the whole field much more sort of confidence. Investors began investing in longevity biotech, and we had this sort of explosion. And today we have senolytics, as I talked about before. We also have this super exciting area of partial reprogramming, where you sort of can reset the biological age of a cell. And there are a lot of other super interesting avenues being pursued. Okay, so this is the longevity industry history. We also have some really great headlines and some examples of significant events. For example, Altos Labs, funded by Jeff Bezos, with I think they have now 3.5 billion US dollars in funding, which is like the largest fund, the largest amount of money for a startup ever. Kind of crazy. Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI that gave us ChatGPT, has invested 180 million in a company called Retro Biosciences. And we had a few people working there coming here to Sweden about 2 years ago. Very happy about that. We have the X Prize, who has been awarding $110 million for companies that can prove that they can reverse aging. And Saudi Arabia has created this fund that's giving out lots and lots of money for both researchers and investing in the longevity biotech sphere. So with all these amazing headlines, you may think that, oh, this is awesome, a lot of activity. Maybe we have stuff that works already. So in your mind, please make a guess. How many approved interventions or medicines do you think we have today that you can go out and buy? Okay, think of a number, and drum roll, the true number is 0. I'm very unhappy to tell you that we don't have anything today that actually works. And just to sort of be a little more precise, we all know that sort of exercise, a healthy diet, and a good amount of sleep, this will extend the healthy part of life, maybe by several years. Now, this is true. We all know that. That's great. But no matter how much you exercise, no matter what you eat, and no matter how much you sleep, you will not live to 150. Okay. So if the goal is indefinite lifespan extension, we don't have anything that works today. And a lot of people are excited about supplements. Now, supplements are basically drugs or medicines that have not gone through trials to prove that they work. So sometimes supplements can be valid to take for a specific person with a specific condition, but we don't have any studies proving that supplements will extend your healthy lifespan. So I'm therefore, well, I have yet to see evidence that sort of supplements will make a major difference. Yeah. All right, and now to sort of close up a bit, where does advocacy fit in all of this? I think actually advocacy has a super important role. And we need advocacy for several reasons, as I already alluded to. First of all, we need to attract talent to the longevity space. We need researchers, like we need postdocs, we need a lot of different researchers, basically. We also need entrepreneurs, investors, and politicians. We need the public calling for anti-aging medications. Like, I want to see demonstrations out in the street, people with signs saying, like, stop aging now. I want to see a lot more of that going on. Because today, I don't know, 99% of people, like almost everyone, don't think it's actually really possible to stop aging. Now, we need to sort of educate the public. We need to tell them, look, it really is possible to stop aging. Now, it's up to you, like the public at large. Like, if you want to do something about it, it's fine. But, don't say that it's not possible, because we know that it is possible. All right. The second one is that obviously we need more funding. And the amount of capital needed to sort of solve aging within, say, a decade or two is massive. And there are no entities besides governments that have access to this much capital. So we need governments. That's just the case. And third, we need public support. I want to see those demonstrations. I want to have 1,000 people outside of Parliament walking around and screaming fund science now. This is unacceptable. So this is what longevity advocacy can help to achieve. All right. Now, you can do this in in different ways. And this is sort of my life journey. I started out just talking to people as a teenager and telling them, I don't think it's not really that good that we sort of age and die. Maybe we should do something about that. And then I became a researcher. I'm in the lab. I'm working with stem cells. I'm like, yeah, I'm doing the right thing. But then I sort of realized that, yeah, even if I dedicate my whole life to this, the chance that I personally will discover some breakthrough thing is like super low. So I'm like, okay, this is not optimal. Maybe I can do more good here. And then I started doing longevity projects, like advocating, like giving talks and stuff. And then I sort of realized that, okay, I need to take this to the next level. I need to be online. I need to reach as many people as possible, right? So this is why I think, if I can sort of tell two people that aging is bad and you should dedicate your life to doing it, and they actually do it, I've sort of multiplied my effect by, a factor of 2. And, this can be done with a factor of 10, 100,000 at least, millions. Unfortunately, there aren't many people doing this in the world right now. I know basically all of them. I met them at different conferences. We are like if you want to talk like real longevity advocates that actually have a platform and can actually influence people and also have credibility, a few dozen people, like at less than 100 people. So if you decide to work on longevity advocacy, you can have a super great impact right now. Like less than 100 people are working on this in the whole world, okay? So if you try to do this, you will be one of the firsts. So yeah, you should do that. And when you do it, I mentioned this before, but just to reiterate, if you share my goal, then I think you definitely should do longevity advocacy. And this is sort of a mean that, yeah, we should not focus on health span. It's much easier. And we have this discussion, like within the longevity advocacy community, there's this ongoing discussion, like, should we talk about maximum lifespan extension? That's really sort of out there, and a lot of people are very hesitant. And they're like, oh, you guys are crazy. We can't take you seriously. But if you talk about health span, you have basically no opposition at all. Like, let's be healthy longer. Like, everybody's for that. That's easy, right? The thing is, at least me, and I urge you or I think this is the right, the moral thing to do. I think we should extend our maximum lifespan a lot, indefinite lifespan extension. And if this really is our goal, I mean, someone has to say it. Someone needs to really tell politicians that this is possible. Now, this is very tricky. This is much harder than advocating for health span because you need to build up credibility. Like most people who say, I want to live forever, they're like, okay, that's a crazy person. So you got to do this. You got to be super rigorous about the science. You cannot make claims that are unfounded. You should probably not sell supplements. Yeah, so remember the goal. And then, why is this so hard? Why aren't people okay, you might think that, when I go out and talk to people and I say, guys, look, it's possible to stop aging and here's how to do it. They'd be like, oh, that's awesome. Yeah, let's do it. Like, shut up and take my money, right? This is not the case, okay? Almost always people are like, what? I don't believe this. And even if it's possible, that's surely immoral for some reason. And I thought about this. I was very surprised in the beginning when I had this reaction. I'm like, what the hell? What are you guys like? Why are you against this? I'm trying to save your life here. But I've thought about this and I have written a whole chapter in my book about this. So I think the reason why this is hard to do longevity advocacy is that, first of all, people don't think it's possible. Like most people are not familiar with the science and they cannot make a judgment like what is possible and what is impossible. There are impossible things. Spaceships travel faster than the speed of light. Will never ever happen in a million years. just like it's not allowed by the laws of nature. So I think that's the major reason. But there are other reasons as well. The second reason here is that, look, talking about death is not fun. You know, when you bring this topic up, you're sort of reminding people that, you know, have you thought about the fact that you're going to die? People don't want to think about this. Okay, they want to push this out of their mind. They're like, carpe diem, I want to be happy today. I don't want to think about this super horrible thing that's going to happen to me. So it's just hard to get like a viral tweet or whatever out. And thirdly, look, during our whole civilization, during culture and literature, we have this sort of narrative that we should accept aging, we should accept death, we shouldn't fight it. It's immoral to fight it. And this is why I have a picture here of Voldemort from the Harry Potter movie. Like, he was the one who sort of tried to live forever in that movie, and he was like this evil character that killed people. And I'm like, okay, like if you if you don't know anything about trying to sort of extend healthy lifespan and you watch Harry Potter, you know, you may think like that this is immoral for some reason. And like, this is obviously super stupid. I mean, you don't have to kill people to develop medicines, right? There's no logical connection here. And I also have a picture of a vampire here because in fiction, the character of a vampire can sort of live forever, but at the cost of sort of killing its fellow humans and sucking their blood, which is like, okay, that we don't want to kill people, obviously, right? So I think all these movies and books that sort of tell us that it's immoral to stop aging and fight this are really damaging. And I think we should realize this, and we should try to fight this narrative. We should say, no, look, we're just trying to be healthy and live longer and be happy. We're not trying to hurt anybody. And this is not something that sort of is exclusive to us. No, we want everyone in the whole world to have access to these medications, right? And the final reason here why it's hard to do longevity advocacy is that sort of people are afraid to hope. You know, most people, like almost everyone, has sort of reconciled with the fact that they're going to die someday. And now you come along and you say, well, maybe there is a chance. And then they react sort of like, oh, I'm afraid to hope. I don't want to get my hopes up because I don't want to be disappointed, right? And I see this over and over again. So these are like sort of psychological mechanisms that we need to be aware of when we advocate for longevity. All right. Now, there are a number of common objections to stopping aging that pop up all the time. And like, this is a major problem. So first of all, overpopulation pops up all the time. Now, every serious scientist who have studied this have come to the same conclusion. We will not get overpopulation if we stop aging. Now, why is this? Well, first of all causes of death that are not related to aging will still remain. Infectious disease, you know, crime, accidents, wars, all these things, they will still be around. You know, solving aging is not some super science fiction magical thing. It's a practical thing that will solve some causes of death. You know, it's sort of analogous to vaccines and antibiotics that sort of raised the mean lifespan from about 40 to now about 70, 80 in the world. We will do that again. We will double the lifespan several times. But it will not lead to overpopulation. Also, these medications will take some time to develop, at the current trajectory, at least a couple of decades. So today, like, the effect is zero. And also, even if we have perfect medications, which we will not have in the beginning. Remember, aging is a complex biological phenomena. It'll take many, many drugs over many, many years to sort of really have true rejuvenation, most likely. So this will happen gradually, right? And finally, on the topic of overpopulation, the world will soon go into population decline. Everyone who's alive today has experienced nothing but exponential population increase. So we have a trouble understanding or picturing a decreasing population. But if you look at the UN population projections, this is exactly what's going to happen. So that's overpopulation. A second one is that sort of it's considered unnatural to do something about aging. Now, this is called the natural fallacy. And it's basically that if something is natural, it's then considered to be good. Now, this is not the case. And I usually take the example of cancer in children. Cancer in children is very natural, but I have yet to meet a single person who think it's actually a good thing. Okay, so stopping aging, if you want to call it unnatural, fine. That does not make it immoral or wrong. Okay, so I think that's just illogical. And finally, I think this is very important, and I'm personally invested in that in the final thing here, and that's equality. I think that longevity medicine should be available to everyone on the whole planet, not just like the super rich. And this picture here is illustrating it. It's from like this famous Swedish movie where the knight is playing chess against death. Like this is the personification of death here. And I've photoshopped in Jeff Bezos' face here to sort of illustrate the point that only the rich will be able to get these drugs. But this is not the case, okay? I really tried to understand this question, and when I wrote my book, I really tried to sort of research this issue. And I came to the conclusion that it's extremely likely that every person who wants to have these medications in the future, when we have them, will be able to get them in basically all countries. And the reason for this is that there's a super strong economic incentive for governments to subsidize, to provide these medications for free for all of their population. And this is practically, this is very likely to happen. And the reason for this is that if you can extend the healthy lifespan of your population, you know, people will, instead of sort of retiring and costing money, costing healthcare, they will be healthy and be able to continue to work and possibly pay taxes, you know. So instead of being a liability to society, you're an asset. And you can extend the productive part of life. Now, all governments will want to do this. Like, it doesn't matter if there's like a democratic government or like some other form of government. North Korea will do this as well. You know, even if the sort of dictator does not have a love for its people, like if the dictator wants more power, it can still sort of do good things for their population because it benefits them. And this is one of the few examples where like the incentives for the public good is sort of aligned with the general public. And I'm very happy that this is the case. So if you think that these will be expensive medications only for the rich, no, these will extremely likely be available to everyone. All right, I'm gonna wrap up now with the last few slides here. Now, if you want to do longevity advocacy and you want to go out and talk about this, here's a good example of what not to do. Okay, so I've done this hundreds and hundreds of times. I say, you know, yeah, we want to stop aging. And then the person you're talking to, they will say like, oh, they will make up some reason why this is bad. Overpopulation, whatever, okay? And then you can sort of start to explain, no, look, overpopulation will not happen. And look, people will never change their mind. They will sort of, this creates an adversarial dynamic in the conversation. Like, even if they hadn't thought about this before, they sort of automatically are placed in an adversarial position. So this doesn't work. So try not to argue with the objections. Like, if you are arguing with like a scientist or like a super intellectual type, maybe this could work, but most people, this dynamic will just mess things up. So what do you do then? Well, I think we should focus on a few key things. First of all, that it is possible. I come back to this all the time. Most people don't think this, okay? We know for a fact that it is possible to stop aging. So we got to push that message a lot. Like, yes, we can do it. We should also point out the fact that, look, there is a longevity industry now. There are over 200 companies in the world that are developing drugs targeting aging. This was not the case pre-2013. Okay, this is very significant and really makes a difference. And finally, there's a global longevity movement now. And this is very, very important. You know, we have scientists, thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and investors all trying to solve the problem of aging. Now, 20 years ago, when I was starting out working on this, we were like a bunch of geeks reading science fiction with no real capacity to actually affect the real world. Now it's real established scientists. You know, we have entrepreneurs with proven track records. We have investors with significant amount of capital. So we have like real people like who can affect change that are working on this. And in terms of narrative, I think we should sort of point out that, look, why are we trying to do this? We're trying to do this because we love life. You know, we love friendship. We love our children, our families, and we're curious about the world. We want to see what happens in the future. You know, this is a positive thing, right? And I think if we push this message, like, are you curious about the future? Like, do you love your friends and family? Well, heck, you should work on aging. You should do longevity advocacy, right? And just to give some examples, here are a few of the most sort of famous and influential longevity advocates out there today. My favorite is Andrew Steele. If you haven't read his book or watched his videos, highly recommend that you do. He's a personal friend of mine as well. He's super humble and super nice. And we have, you know, David Sinclair. We have, of course, Aubrey de Grey. Lots of other people. So there are people who are working on this. This is great. We also have some organizations that are working on this. We have the Lifeboat Foundation that Aubrey de Grey is founder of. We have Vitalism, co-founded by Adam Grease and Nathan Cheng. Super great organization. And we also have the Alliance for Longevity Initiatives based in Washington, D.C., pushing this. And there are other organizations as well. All right, cool. I think that's, yeah, and I final slide. I think it's important that we engage young people in this work. And I think we need to engage young people who will have positions of influence or power in the future. So those studying business, engineering, and science. And for this reason, I have been going around universities and giving lectures and encouraging students to start student longevity organizations. This is sort of more of a long-term project, but I think it's really, really important. All right, that's it. If you think this is interesting, if you have any questions, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm also on X, and yeah, I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, that was an amazing presentation, Linus. You are good. It's something that you've been doing over the years, and I really commend you. We started off here in Africa, early 2018, 19, and we did our first event in 2019 at the University of Rwanda. So Aubrey was there, and we tried to test the water, and it was really hard. So after some sort of racism in the States, I decided to come back to do something in Africa, and then it was at the peak of Boko Haram in Nigeria, so we decided to start in South Africa. So it's been a wonderful experience. There is something a little bit different. You know, Africa, we've not really moved out from biodiversity just as the Europeans and Americans. We are more closer to biodiversity. We've not really been invested in things like ultra-processed food that is causing a whole lot of deregulation or accelerating inflammation and inflammation. So the first we need to do, since we don't have the type of standard healthcare system. We need to talk about bringing people closer to nature, and then a kind of avoiding corporate-based science, and then exposing ourselves to forced marketing that endangers the life, and adopting foreign dietary plans, and then standard of living. Because I remember when I was invited for the IHE Congress, for the World Economics Congress in Cape Town. So a whole lot of people, you see one of the pitches of the pharmaceutical industry, not interested in orphan diseases. They are not interested, they are more interested and vested in return on investment and all that. They don't want to invest in something that people won't buy in. And so we try to, our model of advocacy is for Africans not to see longevity as something for the elites, but as something that everyone can really get access to. And there are ways to start. We need to start doing the basics, and then having the right information. And there is a news that just popped up today, the pharmaceutical industry in China that said that there is a pill for aging.
Yeah.
Did you see that? So I was like, so a lot of people tagged me, and they're like, what's going on? And it's just obvious, because I remember in Buck Institute of Aging in the US a couple of years back, when we were doing some of all these things, they showed us how to identify some of those marketing gigs and all that. And it is easier for people to get excited when they don't understand what aging is.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we are trying to do in Africa is to ensure that we have almost a longevity movement or chapter every universities in Africa.
Oh,
We
I
have
love for that to happen. Yeah.
that's
Go,
that's
go.
why we here. We're going to have a movement in all the chapters in the universities in Africa. We're going to have chapters in every state and in every country. And the essence of this meeting is to arm people with the right information. If you check the program, it was properly selected. Tomorrow, Aubrey will be speaking. We have healthcare professionals here. We have clinicians, we have businessmen, we have students here. And the idea is to streamline this message in such a way that they can grasp it, and so doing, some of them, we start attending the International Longevity Alliance meetings, start going for the Singapore longevity meetings. We start attending global events. Of course, you know about our International Longevity Summit Africa that we organize annually. And so
Yeah, that's
they
super
start
cool.
presenting.
I'm gonna, I gotta join you guys next time.
Yeah, but we are looking at because we're looking at Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, next year, because our vision is to take it across the African countries, 55 African countries, and then allow people to have a local longevity events, so as to translate, because transfer of knowledge is key. So advocacy is the core, it's like the foundation of longevity movement, to at least disambiguate the mind of people, give them the right information, not allow them to get excited by false marketing, false packaging, because you said there are a whole lot of people that are claiming to be longevists, but how many of them understand the rudiments, the parameters, what needs to be said and what needs to be absorbed and how? Because these are the basic things that everyone needs to really get into. So thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. Thank you for your time. It's not easy. And there are some questions. I don't know if you have any question, you raise your hand. Let's take those first before we start taking questions from the chat. So if you have any question, please.
May I ask you a question just to begin?
Okay, no problem. Go ahead.
So I'm not familiar with, I'm not like intimately familiar with all the different sort of cultural, like local cultures in all African countries. Would you say that there are countries that are like more naturally sort of inclined to wanting to do something about aging and death, or what would you say, like the cultural sentiment to
It's
longevity in general? What is that
I
like?
th- I think that, naturally nobody wants to die. Naturally, it's a natural phenomenon. Nobody wants to die. And people think that we are trying to play God, but when you explain to them that it is the longevity, the logic of longevity is teleological. If you are 50 years and you don't have any age-related disease and condition, and your body is younger, like the age of 12 and 20 years, like your biological age is 20 years when you chronologically you're 50, and it presupposes that you have the chances of living 80 with a body of 30 or 50, then it progresses. So when you explain it that way, it makes more sense to people, right? Now
Mm.
it is everybody is open to living longer here in Africa, but there's one challenge.
Mm.
The challenge is Africans are religiously gullible. Let me put it that way.
Mhm.
The Judo-Christian and Islamic thingy, and sometimes tend to um, make people not to really understand um, the nitty-gritty of science. Even if they are scientists, they will find a way to bring in God into the whole conversation. And it becomes a challenge. Now, aside that, our notion of longevity is totally different from what people in Silicon Valley try to project. It is not immortality, because in Africa, we talk about intergenerational living, and
Mm.
our notion of life extension is totally different. So we tend to look at life as a teleological connection. Might sound somehow, but it's somehow very important. So for you not to cause a chaos or a problem, you just have to tell all it around living longer, healthy living. Like we want you to stay, even when you are 80, you won't have age-related diseases and condition. And that makes more sense to people because nobody wants to suffer the burden of osteoporosis and other Alzheimer's disease and Parkinson's disease. I remember when I started earlier, went to villages for kind of sharing the knowledge, and most people were like, "Oh my God!" There are people that believe that if you're having Parkinson's disease, it's either
Mm.
you are a witch or you are
Okay.
under a spell, or it's because of you belong to a particular cult, and that is the nemesis. You're facing the nemesis of your problem. So we try to explain to them that Parkinson's disease, it's a kind of a degeneration. Alzheimer's disease is a kind of a degeneration, accumulated disease, and some of these things don't have um you can't just explain it with spiritual, but some persons still find a way to link it to that, and you see them, they are not really open to scientific scrutiny. A lot of things they fall back to religious, which blocks their prefrontal cortex to reason correctly about the realities of life. So that is where we are. But I must tell you, with the turnout here and the people joining the community, we started this community, not the Afro Longevity. Afro Longevity launched in 2022. 2021 and launched it. We started 2021 and launched it 2022.
Mm.
But we started this community early last month, and we are already over 300. So people are excited. So what
All
we
right.
want to is to set the tone and arm people to be right ambassadors and missionaries of longevity, to bridge the longevity divide and improve the quality of life of Africans.
Okay, cool. Awesome. I think that that's very insightful.
Yeah.
The point about religion, I don't think there's a sort of a conflict here really, because living healthy longer, it's Well, I suppose it how you interpret different things, but if we can offer a way for people to live healthy longer, I don't see why that would be necessarily in conflict with any religious beliefs. So I think we can develop these medications, these advanced therapies, and offer them to anyone who would like them. And I don't see a logical conflict here. You can be religious and use these drugs, no problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I did some, because I was a core religious person in the past. So I had a whole lot of arguments when I meet religious people. I would say the Bible, there's a place where the Bible said that there will be a time that death will be no more. What if we are entering that time? Because if God is the giver of wisdom and everything, what if God wants to walk through man to achieve this moment when death will be no more? And then God gave man the knowledge from across the world, although there will be a summation of this knowledge to find a solution around this. So you can always, depending on the people, you need to formulate an argument that is scientifically valid, but appealing to their biases in a way that is pleasing. And yeah, that's just what we've been trying to do. But I must tell you that a whole lot of people seem to be excited about this, right? So there are some questions here. Adedoja, please go ahead with your question. Thank you.
Yeah, good day, everyone. Thank you, our speaker, for the wonderful presentation, and to our dear convener. Thank you very much. My question is that I actually joined the class late because there was a bit network issue there. I will definitely go back to rewatch this section. So here is my question. And this year, I lost both of my parents actually, and I have a bit knowledge about medical background, but I was unable to save them during this crisis. And that was when the question kept prompting, like, why this thing is not working. So I began to do research myself, and I was able to find out some truth. So I began to write online, educating people. But when it comes to Nigeria, there is hierarchy in everything, because there are some things you will have to just keep mute because you are being afraid of being attacked or being dragged. So I've been looking for the answer. Like, I don't know what exactly I have to give to the kind of gossiping I'm actually doing online. So until I came across Mr. Osinachi, that was when I found the word longevity, and I felt like, wow, this is exactly what I've been looking for. So here is my question: how can someone pursue formal education in longevity? Like, there are topics I'm passionate about talking about, but I'm being afraid or being held back just because I don't have the qualification. So I would really appreciate the guidance on the academic or professional pathway, if available, in this field. Thank you, sir.
All right. Yeah. So sort of career guidance, like if I interpret the question as if you want to do longevity advocacy, you need to have academic credibility, and like, what can you do? What should you study? So if that is correct, I would recommend that you obviously study something within biology. So the subfield is called biogerontology. And biogerontology, and also a relatively new area of study, which is called geroscience. These two areas are this is basically aging science. So I recommend that you try to, if you want to go down the academic route, I recommend these two areas in general. Yeah, and also to, if you have the opportunity, go to conferences and talk to people. I think that's like the very best way to sort of get into this field. There are many conferences around the world. Many can be, you can you can sort of watch them digitally as well. So I think this is the situation today is so much greater than it was maybe 20 years ago. We didn't have the internet in the way we do now. So yeah, attend academic conferences. I think the ARDD in Copenhagen, so the Aging Research and Drug Discovery meeting, is like the best one. So I highly recommend that one. And they published all their talks online for free. Yeah, so that would be my short answer for that.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so if I may, geroscience or gerontology is hello, can you hear me? So if I may, geroscience is not really one of the things that we are trying to do here is to ensure that we have a system, because we are partnering with some universities and especially the College of Medicine, University of Lagos. We partner with them, helping them to develop curriculum on the biology of aging and longevity medicine. So we've signed an MOU last year, and we have some persons, including Aubrey and Professor Andre Meyer, Evelyn Bishop, and some of all these big players. And since I'm also a faculty fellow at the Longevity Education Hub, so we got people from there to help systematize, because I've looked at what they have in gerontology. It doesn't really match what we are talking about in this age and time. These are dated curriculums, like things that we don't relatively take seriously. And the best, longevity science is totally different from the traditional gerontology and geriatrics. I think it's just like a fusion of gerontology and geriatrics. And now it's bringing in biogerontology, precision medicine, and drug development. It's like a summation of all this. So I think the best way is to institutionalize yourself first, join a movement, become part of it, understand what is being said there, and then you can do one of those courses in your undergraduate and then run a master's or start writing your thesis around all this. And it will be an easier way, because if you say constantly attending mainstream conferences, it's very difficult. For instance, a Nigerian to go to, or a Ghanaian or whatever, to go to the US, it's not, that's one of the things that we are trying to correct. We want to build a framework where we have this conversation in our continent. Now, if I want to go to US, I need to have at least $10,000 in my account, and I have to struggle to have a visa. But an American will come to Africa with that visa. So you see the inequality and all that. And then if someone wants to move from Nigeria to South Africa or wherever, you have to spend close to 2 billion naira, which is about $2,000. And this is just plus and minus the stress and everything. So when we start getting the right information, training people rightly, we can actually have this conversation in our different countries. And once in a while, we meet in a particular country. We meet at a particular country to have our international, where we have all the experts from across the world to have this conversation, and then look for a way to get investors and have programs ongoing within the continent. So this is a system. We are creating something that we outlive all of us here. So that is what we want to do with the Afrolongevity movement. And from here, we are going to have spin-offs of industries, spin-offs of ideas and all that. So that is what we are trying to do. Okay, thank you.
Wonderful stuff.
Akoko, your question, please.
Good evening. Sorry, I'm at the roadside. I hope you can hear me, right?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. All right. My question is, I love this aspect that everybody's talking about here so much. I was telling someone that if I'm not into tech, the best path I will ever choose to follow is what we are discussing here, and nutrition. So my question is, one thing with African is sometimes they get being feared over the long-term implication of whatever they're doing. So they'll first consider, even if it doesn't affect them, what is the effect of what they're taking in relation to maybe their gene as with regard to their lineage later in life that follows them. What will be the effect of this thing down the line or the life of the direct people that are taking them? That's one of the fear of an African man when it comes to, getting being introduced to something related to medical medicine or stuff like this that we are talking about. So I don't know the science behind this. What is the implication of it in the long term? Either to maybe me that is going to make use of it for longevity's sake, or for my lineage, down the lineage, my offspring. What's going to be the implication of it if
Sure.
I begin to use any of this product related to longevity? That's my question. I think you understand me, right?
Yes, yes. This is an excellent
Okay.
question. So as I interpret the question is, if I use these like new aging medicines, these longevity drugs, will they have an effect on my children and my grandchildren, basically? Now, it depends on what medication. Almost all will have no effect at all. So it will not affect our children and grandchildren and stuff like that. There are two different types of medications. So we have, when you do gene therapy, when you alter the genome, if you do that on so-called germline edit modifications, if you take like an embryo and you sort of maybe change one gene in order to prevent the children to have a genetic disease that the parents have, then you permanently alter the DNA, and those changes will be carried down through the generations afterwards. Now, we scientists are very aware of this, so we are very there are very strict regulations of what you can do. So germline modifications is generally not allowed. There was one guy in China who did this, who changed the genome of, I think it was a child that was actually born in order to cure them for AIDS. I don't know if you're familiar.
Yarn, yes, Yarn, he's out from the prison, and we wanted to invite him for our conference.
Oh, really? Cool,
2 years ago. So,
right.
But they seized his passport, but he's out now. Yeah,
okay,
continue.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think I need like in theory, I'm very happy to do this. I think we should sort of cure genetic diseases, but we need to be very careful here and not to introduce. We need to be very careful what we're doing there, so we don't sort of affect the germline in a bad way, basically. Now, if you sort of take a step back, these types of medications are very rare. Almost all longevity medications that we are developing are not of this type. Like if you take like a normal pill, like a normal anything, it will only affect you yourself, and it will not affect your future children and their children. So in practice, this is, up until this point at least, this is not a problem. So yeah.
Thank you so much. They were talking about if it alters their gene, because there are a lot of, aside the whole thing, there are a lot of pseudoscience around the conversation, if it alters gene or genetic modification and all that. So because of the experience in the past, people tend to be very careful. If we Africans want to be in the same table in discussing science, we want to be respected, we want to be seen, we want to be heard, we want the world to understand that whatever that is being done in the longevity space is we are not in competition. We are providing a solution for humanity. So that's just what we want, and we want people to really understand. So I think when we get to things like gene sequencing, omics technology, looking at issues like how to change the genetic makeup to remove the wrong genes and all that, they'll seem to understand it better. But at this point, there is no longevity medicine that affects the human condition. Most of all these things are in the herbs, both cultivated herbs and wild herbs that our ancestors used. A good knowledge of phytochemistry and phytophysics would help us to understand that you can find most of all these things that a whole lot of persons are spending too much to get. So it's something that I feel that the longevity space also needs to have a very close relationship with the agricultural industry, because of course, you know that what we eat, how we eat, when we eat, and how we interact with the environment makes our longevity. So there are other questions here that I want to read to you before our last presenter. Someone said, what unique lifestyle or dietary habits within African community contribute most to healthy aging?
Yeah, sure. Sure. I did a literature review when I wrote my book, and I tried to answer the question, what can we do today to extend our healthy lifespan as much as possible? And there's a super solid literature on physical exercise. So basically a workout or movement of any kind. This will prevent not all, but many, many, many diseases. So be active as much as possible. Try to avoid a sedentary lifestyle where you sort of sit still by your computer all the time. It doesn't really matter what type of exercise you do, although you like. I usually try to say do something that you love, that you like doing, you know. But as long as you move, you do something, then you will have enormous health benefits by that. So that's one part. Another thing is to have a healthy diet. Now, we don't know exactly what you should eat to extend your lifespan or the healthy part of life, but we do know some things. So if I can only say like one sentence, it would be that try to be like vegetarian most of the time and avoid junk food. Maybe not eat so much sugar. And if you do that, you will have a lot of health benefits. Now, of course, you can try to super optimize your diets, but you will spend a lot of time and a lot of energy. And like, if you just go vegetarian 90%, you can eat meat sometimes, but like if you do that, you will have like 80-90% of the health benefit that a good diet can give you, right? So unless you think it's like super fun and you really like to optimize your diets, then I don't think it's really productive to try to over optimize your diet. And then just try to be like get enough sleep. I know this is more easy said than done, but try to avoid chronic stress and try to get enough sleep. Now these are like common sense things that like we all know, but you really try to actually do them in your everyday life. I don't think there's any like specific that you could do as a sort of African, because like we are all humans. We have the same physiology. Exercise, a good diet, and sleep works for everyone.
Okay, if I may add, most people always think that in the longevity space, I've argued in the past, I think that was in 2023, where was this professor again that wrote about the something paradise, the hedonistic imperative. I wrote about the hedonistic imperative. Yeah.
Right.
So I had a conversation with him, and he was pushing about the vegetarian, being vegetarian. And I said, Africans, we were not, you know, what impacts the environment where you are situated. I think a good knowledge of evolutionary and genetic nutrition would help us to understand that where we find ourselves as species sometimes condition our diet. I'll explain. Of course, you know that most Africans, especially in Nigeria, we are living at the center of the equator, right? Of the equator, right? And because of the sunlight and all that, the Mediterranean diet wouldn't be good for us. The indigestible carbohydrates that we find in plants even affect our health. So there is a way that we prepare, our ancestors prepare our food. And science tends to interpret it better now, why ketogenic diet seems to work more for Africans. And I would say, I'll give you to go do more research on mild or mild Paleolithic diet, how it will be the best for Africans. Ogonna, please, can you mute? So, so that is what I think would be great. And the best, you've mentioned that, like for me, one of the problems, one of the things that I have been failing myself to do is to sleep well. Sleeping, most longevists that talk about sleep don't sleep. You know, we hardly sleep. We're always busy doing one thing or the other. And oxidative stress is also something that we need to, people don't understand the level of radiation, biological radiation that comes with stress. And it will even make you not to heal fast when you have problems, chronic problems. And Nigerians and most people in the Western Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa suffers from malaria and typhoid, which even try to affect the DNA and also the mitochondria DNA. It's properly affected. Yes, what I saying something very important. We are genetically diverse. Yes, but at the same time, we are also exposed to almost the same reality. Do you understand? We are almost exposed to, we don't have a kind of healthcare system and poor regulatory. In fact, there are a whole lot of factors, there are a whole lot of things that we are trying to solve in this movement. We're going to talk about the lack of pharmacovigilance in most African countries. We have to talk about the lack of bioequivalent when it comes to people bringing in drugs from China and India with zero proper clinical trial to understand the bioequivalence. Just because they say that it works for people here doesn't mean that it works for us. So we need to be sure. We have trust issues when it comes from us, but whenever it's coming from outside, it's okay. So these are the things that we need to be checkmating. There are a whole lot of things affecting. And also, initially, the Western education that came into Nigeria were teaching people taking hot chocolates and all that, and bread as being balanced diet. But of course, there is nothing like balanced diet. A diet is balanced based on your metabolic health, and you need to eat right and not just too many ultra-processed foods, seeing them as balanced diet, or expensive food, seeing them as a balanced diet. People should learn how to eat from their kitchen. People should learn how to eat right and eat natural. And portion eating is also necessary. And sometimes if you have something that you can apply a little bit of intermittent fasting, depending on how your biological terrain can carry you. Thank you so much, Peterson. I really appreciate. Our next speaker is here. I really appreciate you, Linus Peterson.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and I really admire the work you're doing. Keep up the great work. I'll be super happy to join you in a future conference and in some part of Africa. And yeah, I wish you all Godspeed.
Man, thank you so much. We keep doing this. Now we have Water Cropton here. Water Cropton is our friend, and he has been in charge of our the TFFDS magazine of the future. And there is an interesting conversation that came up on the longevity social group, and I wanted him to share with us. And I'm going to read that message here. So yesterday, I sometimes wonder if my friends here are fully aware of plasma-based rejuvenation intervention. I have had both plasma replacements with saline albumin, TPE, and an infusion of YFFP, young, fresh, frozen plasma, which is biopreserved via flash freezing plasma drawn from sex-matched donor who are compensated age 18 to 25. So in fact, I am now aware that you can get both TPE and YFFP as part of a simple intervention, which I suspect is the best mid-price rejuvenation intervention available right now. YFFP captures nature's formula for efficient systemic repair with a balanced natural formulation of 20K components. Unfortunately, YFFP infusion are only available in Texas due primarily to what appears to be corruption, including proliferation of demonstrably false information about safety and efficiency. Many of you are young, but might want to help your elders by looking further into this. Thank you so much, Water Compton. Water has been in this space of longevity for years. He has worked with the Science Research Foundation, and he's an engineer, right? So one of the things that I want Afrolongevity Movement to do is in the nearest future to have spin-off of ideas companies. We have future engineers, we have future CEOs. I hope that they can learn something and start working on something after staying with Afrolongevity for some time, and as social entrepreneurs, identify problems, real world problems that they can solve. The floor is yours, Water Cropton. Thank you. Yeah, you can unmute yourself. You are muted.
You want me to say something?
Yes, I wanted you to talk about it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's a big topic, but the long and the short of it is this. It's well known that when you talk about blood-based therapy, really, you're talking about plasma. It's not the blood cells. In fact, that's a complicating factor that adds nothing. So the plasma contains a lot of very important, well, it contains everything, all kinds of life-giving or life-supporting factors, and they change over time. So you can look at the protein composition in your plasma at age, at age 5, at age 15, at age 25, at age 55, at age 85, and you'll see that it shifts dramatically, and it is at least slightly different for depending on your sex. So, and it should come as no surprise that these components, proteins, and all kinds of little things, exosomes, and so on, these are very sensitive to heat and so on, and they do not survive sterilization or alcohol-based well, I guess it's really just sterilization, really, preservation. So the notion of fresh frozen, young fresh frozen plasma, sex matched, is intuitively a good idea. Now, intuition is often wrong, but right off the bat, it has the right ring to it. You're taking plasma from young people, which, by the way, is good for them, amazingly enough. It's actually good for young people to donate plasma, and giving it to the elders. So it also serves a very important and fading factor, which is that it connects the young and the old in a way that is really intimate. You have the young helping the old. That's not unimportant, I don't think. Anyway, so you give this fresh frozen plasma, and obviously it's thawed, but right before infusion, and it has all the factors that young people have. Now, I think you can very successfully argue that aging, the adverse effects of aging, what they amount to is a withdrawal of repair and growth functions. So if a baby has a bad cut, say on their face, by age 20, you might not even see a scar at all. Whereas I, at age 72, if I get a cut on my face, I'm going to have a big purple mark there for the rest of my life. The reason being that my body is not, and it's all in your blood. It's all in your blood. That is specifically in the plasma. I'm going to have this bad scar for the rest of my life because my repair mechanisms are not nearly as good. So anyway, that's kind of a very quick and dirty explanation of why it works. But there's a huge problem, which is it is unavailable. You will not be able to find it. And by the way, in the United States, for example, it's actually illegal. If you can believe it, it's illegal to label plasma with the sex of the donor and the age of the donor. Why would that be? Isn't that something you would want to know? Wouldn't you prefer to have plasma, if you need plasma, even if, for emergency treatment, wouldn't you prefer to have it from someone of the same sex? You can actually, there's a thing called TROLI, TROLI. It's a disease that if a pregnant woman gives blood to a man, it can actually kill him because of the hormone mix and so on. But anyway, so that's the long and the short of it. So the only thing that's missing is there is plenty of research, but there needs to be more. Now, the competing thing, TPE, therapeutic plasma exchange, what that is they remove the old person. Well, it's actually used also for autoimmune diseases and so on. People who have problems with their blood, they will often remove their native plasma and give them a saline albumin solution as a replacement for their endogenous plasma. You can't do too much because plasma is extremely complicated, has somewhere like 20,000 different components in it. And obviously albumin and saline, well, saline, of course, is just salt water. And albumin is a complicated, it's very important actually. But anyway, you can add that to it and replace plasma in relatively large quantities without danger. However, your body has to replace all the other things that are in plasma in order to restore it to the quality of blood. And it serves to pull out the adverse factors of old plasma and replace it with this fresh saline albumin solution. And it has fleeting effects. Personally, there's only one physician I know of who does this. Actually, it's a woman of Vietnamese origin who is in whatever the capital of Texas is. Slips my mind for the moment. Anyway, and she actually, to me, this is the exact right formula. You take out the old plasma, and rather than replace it with saline albumin, you replace it with young plasma. That, I believe, is the best formula. But there's no proof because research is extremely restricted. For one thing, there's the funding thing. Oh, it's very complicated, but there's some hanky-panky having to do with the FDA not approving young plasma for compensation. So it's very expensive to do research with it if the doctor can't get compensated. So anyway, I talk too much. I don't know where to stop. I'll stop now.
Okay, so thank you so much. Thank you so much, Walter. The thing is that most people here are just are not experts in the longevity field, and sometimes they don't understand the technical terms that they use. I don't know if you are open for questions. Yeah, when you
Oh,
say,
absolutely.
so when you say, let's say, plasma-based rejuvenation intervention, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by plasma-based rejuvenation intervention?
Well, probably
And
everybody
then
here.
my follow-up.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, continue.
Probably everybody here has heard of the so-called heterochronic parabiosis. Heterochronic means different age. Parabiosis means sharing biology, right? So if you take an old rat and using a tube and needles, if you make it so their blood systems are connected, if you take an old rat and connect it to a young rat, the old rat will show very visible, very palpable improvements in its health from the young rat. And they struggled for a long time to figure it all out. But what it really comes down to is it's the plasma. It's not anything else. The young plasma from the young rat is rejuvenating the old rat, and the old plasma that is also pumped into the young rat actually degrades the health of the young rat. So that part has been extremely well proven. They used to think it was blood. Now they realize it's not blood, it's plasma. And actually, that's a good thing because plasma is extremely safe, and doesn't have the complications that blood have, although it does have some, but it's less.
Okay.
That's one thing.
Okay, so when you said that when you did mention that that the younger generation giving out the plasma is of good benefit for them, what do you mean by that, and won't it affect them in later years?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the simple, it's really interesting. There's a lot of you probably have all heard of there's a factor in life where a small amount of damage can actually make you healthier. In fact, exercise falls into that category. So when you go out and you run, let's say you go jogging or you go to the gym and lift weights, you're creating all kinds of bad things. You're breaking muscle fibers. You are adding pollutants to your blood and so on and so on. But reactive oxygen species. So, but your body responds by not only just fixing what is broken, but going beyond that. So that's called hormesis, right? There's a hormetic effect with many, many things where a lot can kill you, but a little bit is good for you. And it turns out that drawing plasma out of young people actually reinforces their health by stimulating. It's kind of a use it or lose it phenomenon. By stimulating the production of new plasma, it's actually healthy for the young people. And detoxifies them too. But old plasma has way more problems, way more deficiencies and built up toxins than young plasma.
Okay. That makes sense. Any question from anyone? Question, please. If you have any question, raise your hand. If you want to type them, that's good.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to send I'll send it to you, my friend.
Okay.
I'll send you a paper or two and you can distribute it to the group, okay?
No issues, I'll do just that. Victor Oka, you have asked a question.
Go ahead, Victor.
Yeah, thank you very much, Walter, and thank you to Osinachi and every other person. My question is, I think I'm just hearing of this plasma-based intervention. It's really new to me. I just want to ask, how is this different from blood transfusion? Just as you mentioned, plasma is very complicated, part of the components of the blood. Because I'm just wondering, the blood cells are part of the blood, plasma is there. I'm just wondering how this is done. How is this different from blood transfusion? Thank you.
Okay. The long and the short of it is that when you donate plasma, what happens is they take your blood out, they put it in a centrifuge, they separate the cells, and they give the cells, the blood cells, back. Now remember, plasma is basically the liquid part of blood, right? And it has many, many microparticles in it, but it's the liquid part of blood, and then the cells are the parts that include, offer immune, the white cells and killer cells and all kinds of stuff, and blood, and of course red blood cells. So you put that back in the donor, and you just use the plasma. Now, there's a lot of complications, but that's the simple thing. And what was your question again?
How is it different from blood transfusion from what you just said
well,
now?
In a sense, it wouldn't be different, except for, interestingly, plasma compatibility is the reverse of blood compatibility. So it actually removes a complicating factor. So if you are type O blood, type AB plasma, but plasma from a type AB person, say if you were O negative, plasma from a AB positive person would actually be the safest for you. Because sometimes the plasma will trigger, just like blood, can trigger an allergic reaction. And your white cells will go crazy. Your immune system will do something bad. So there's things like that. Now, so when you receive plasma, it's quite benign. It doesn't affect your blood at all. It just adds more fluid. And I've had it done. And the reason I'm an advocate is because it works so well for me. But basically, you end up urinating a lot for the rest of the day from all of the extra fluid that you've taken in.
Okay.
Okay. Actually, it turns out I just heard about this meeting, and I have a competing meeting that I need to join. But I will send Asi a couple papers to share. Okay.
Yeah, just send it on WhatsApp or the email, my corporate email.
Very well.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm glad to see so many people. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I'm going to contact the man that does this project, and I'm going to invite him to see if he can be able to speak to us.
That
about
would be,
the whole
you won't
thing.
regret that. Tom is an extremely eloquent, intelligent person, very accomplished.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm going to thank you so much. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, guys, thank you so much for today's edition. We're going to continue tomorrow. Wait. Tomorrow's event, you can't afford to mix it. Just prepare your question. Anything you want to you want to ask with regards to longevity, bring it tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll be hosting the grandfather of modern longevity science, Aubrey de Grey. Just take your time. He'll be the only one to present tomorrow. So Aubrey will have the floor. I just, at the course of the presentation, I was on call with him. to confirm everything and to make sure that he is here. Aubrey starts immediately way. So you can't afford to miss a minute of Aubrey's presentation. Aubrey de Grey is the man that developed the science formula, the science, the Senesian model that is used and even part of the hallmark of aging that this other guy Peterson talked about. Well, if I were to be you, you have to make sure that your internet is functional, you're at the right place, you prepare for the presentation tomorrow. 7, Aubrey de Grey. To have a lovely night rest. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, depending on where you're joining us from. Thank you so much. Remain blessed.